So the party had been victorious at Axholm, which was incidentally the most difficult part of the whole series for you guys because that horde of ghouls that came in uh, right at the start, that was pretty painful. But it was super useful at that point to have Jafar have his bonfire because I remember you guys just like turned the main entrance into a kill corridor.
Yeah,
Because Nuff had put up like whirling blade, whatever the
it's
blade spell
the
is. That's
dagger,
gonna
cloud of
stop.
daggers. Nuff used cloud of daggers, and they kept
Yep.
basically those two up front. They did cloud of daggers, and then basically Morthos kept or not Morthos. Jafar kept using bonfires, almost like an AOE fire damage to 2 or 3 ghouls each, and so it was just they were done. That was probably one of the best uses.
Whose idea?
I think that was. Oh no, I think that was Diggory because we heard a scream inside, and that was the scream of the banshee. I don't think it was Diggory wanted to knock on the door. I think he just wanted to break it down and like save whoever was in there. And then we broke the door down on like a ton of ghouls. I think it was at least like 10. I remember specifically in this one encounter, it was so great to use the shatter spell because of the effects it has to surroundings. I remember one point we were just going down a corridor and like a ton, I think it was like a ogre, I can't remember exactly what it was. A couple like bigger tier monsters were coming down there and I just cast Shatter, collapsed the entire cavern down on them, and we ended up going another way. So thankfully I had to roll well enough to not collapse the count. The whole our side of the cavern in on us, but thankfully I rolled well and I didn't TPK my whole party.
You guys did fairly well with the spider encounter. That was up top. After that, then you guys went and faced the banshee. That was a whole session after, though. So, was it you or Morthos who was out for that?
I think I missed a session. You guys like half faced the banshee, but I came back the next session and we were still in the middle of the fight. Somebody like my dad had rolled my saving throw for me and I had instantly failed.
Yeah, because I was just NPCing you.
Yeah, and you brought me back when I came back to that next session. I came back with like 1 hit HP, and so I just like turn a corner and I just see like most of my party members laying on the ground like unconscious and bleeding out, and then just the Minotaur paladin wailing away at a ghost.
Yeah, because that's right. Jim had used the not detect good and evil, whatever the one is, the paladin power to see where undead are. And yeah, she's a spirit, and it's like, oh, that's right. My paladin has this ability, so I'm like, oh yeah, she's here. Like she's totally within that radius. She's up here, and he was directing the party. Hey guys, it's this way. Let's go kill the thing. Yeah, and then just paladin crits against undead or ghosts. So nice.
I remember he ended up killing her with a natural 20. Divine smite from his horn gorge attack. I think he took her out right through the eye.
Yeah,
that was probably the highlight of the campaign for him because he'd never done more damage, and I think any campaign than that moment.
Yeah, because it's okay. Double your damage. Okay, they're also weak to this. Okay, it's dead. Never mind. It's really fun. So the party I'm running Icefire with right now faced a different banshee on the coast, and they were not doing so well to start. One of them went down, and the rogue, well, the monk was dragging the unconscious druid away from the fight so that she didn't just end up killing him. And then rogue comes in, magical dagger that has special extra damage on crits, magical damage, and she crits. And because it's the only magic weapon, it was also the only thing that would be dealing normal damage. And she rolled exactly the damage to do its HP. And so I picked up my DM screen and showed the spin down die with its HP and said, congrats, you exactly killed this monster.
It's not too often that you exactly kill a monster.
Oh, no.
It's pretty great when it happens.
But then, in that same session, well, no, the session after, but that same set encounter, I was running the Acolyte of Talos, the big bad who was trying to summon the Thunder Boar. And so they went ascend again. This time, our half orc barbarian hit the light to go out so they wouldn't be blinded anymore. They recover from the blind. And then they all see, oh, the guy just tried to push the monk off the edge and failed. Barbarian notices this and is like, oh, I'm going to pick him up, lift him over the edge, and drop him. And so I'm like, okay, roll your opposed. Athletics check from the big bad. 1. Oof. So, and then I think the barbarian even got like a 20 plus unnatural, and then picked him up, dropped him. And so it's 100 feet. That's 10d6 damage. I rolled out in the open. I'm like, here, you can roll the fall damage. I roll right in the tray. They exactly kill him. I pick up my screen. I'm like, you jerks. You exactly killed my monster again. Yeah, and they hadn't taken much damage because he rolled fairly poorly to try and hit the monk. Not to mention monk, high wisdom, high dexterity. He didn't have a very solid chance to hit. He had to roll like a 13. It wasn't that high, but completely missed him. And then the only thing that really went off was a lightning bolt that managed to catch 2 of them. So, yeah, and then next turn, everyone else got their turn. Half orc lifted him and just, whoop, there you go, right down the tower. So anyway, Banshee managed to be finished in the campaign with Jim. Party went back to Phandalin. I remember like one of the first things, because we needed to wrap up because we were going to send, our friend was picking up the game that we had started prior, was, okay, I'm going to wrap this up. I don't want to have you guys make the long journey to Icespire Peak and to where the actual dragon lair is, etc. Because you guys have gone to the Shrine of Savros, the god of prophecy, I just gave Diggory a vision. I'm like, okay, roll. And you rolled in that 20. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to straight up give him a vision. Instead of surprising them with the dragon being angry at them, I will instead let them know, hey, the dragon's coming.
Which turned out to be pretty cool because I had random rolled a lot of Diggory's backstory because I'd given him at least 4 or 5 options. No, it was a D6 worth of options. And his mentor, his wizard mentor, had been a divination wizard. Mm-hmm. Was like who's playing himself off as a cleric, like pretending to be a prophet to people. And so it was kind of cool to be able to tie that in for my character and have him starting to get like visions of the future too. I believe at this point, Diggory had a romantic attachment that he had started to form with the cleric, Lady Adabra. I believe she had been taken in the last attack by the dragon, and that was the vision he saw of her in the ice in the mountain, the dragon coming towards Phandalin.
Yeah. And so I set up the personal grudge that they're going to end this. The first question I recall out of the party after Diggory shared that information in game was, is there a ballista nearby? Or a... No, it was exactly, that was exactly the words. Is there a ballista nearby?
That was my dad.
That was enough. Yeah. And so I'm like, you know what? I'll roll for it. Sure, there is in fact a ballista nearby. Lene at the Lion Shield Coster has one. And so they convinced her to give it to them and then modified it to launch a person out of.
Yeah. The thing that you're forgetting to mention, though, was because you said, oh, yeah, there's a ballista, but it's in the basement. Like, it's one of those guys that builds a boat in its basement, and you can't get the boat out. But you had forgotten that you'd given us a portable hole. So we just used the portable hole to bring the ballista right out of there.
Yeah. And then from that point, I remember Nuff said, oh, can I modify it to I'm like, oh, can you craft? Do you have woodworking? He's like, yes, I do, and I have the tools. I'm like, oh.
He had like you had given him expertise in like woodworking. Because I think at the time you thought, oh yeah, that's never gonna come up. But he had been whenever we would go places, I don't know if it was just in the module or if for some reason you just kept mentioning at different places we were going, there was ballistas. And so he had it in his mind just about, ballistas are kind of cool. Because you were like saying that's what people used for defense, like in certain areas
Yep.
for the manticores. I mean, he was
Well,
just
because
thinking,
Axholm, so the quest just before that you guys had just run, has ballistas on either side of that. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I know there's ballistas in this world and they use them. They didn't take any from Axholm, so they're probably not going to be able to use one. It's whatever. And if they do, it still takes 3 people's actions to use.
yep. And because we had the vision beforehand, the party decided instead of that Nuff would spend most of his time woodworking and Jim was going to help him, just take the help action and help him out doing that. And the rest of the party was going to be evacuating the city so that it would be abandoned to Axholm.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of our Helm's Deep.
Yeah. Because even that quest card just says, if a dragon attack is imminent. And I'm like, oh, they had a vision. A dragon attack is now imminent. That works. I'll let them do that. Totally.
Yeah. I think that was one of the few things that our party actually did, or in any of the parties I've been, that was actually like a true act of heroism that actually like paid off to fruition and somehow didn't like get screwed up by some roll, like bad roll, like trying to save someone.
Yeah.
We're just like, yeah, we're just going to evacuate these people.
Yeah. The dragon, they see way off in the distance. They had prepped the ballista fully loaded through the Minotaur of the party, the Paladin Minotaur Jim, into the ballista with boots of flying. They're like, we're just going to launch Jim at the dragon, and he's going to get that first hit off because he's melee. This is how this is going to work. And I'm like, so you understand, when you throw an object at another object, the object is not immune to the object that it's hitting. You get that, right? And they're like, yep, we get that.
We'll do him horn first, though. That was the plan. And also, I remember Morthos and Nuff got into an argument because they were both right there by the catapult. The rest of us were scattered using different houses as cover as the dragon was approaching. But Morthos and Nuff got into an argument about whether Morthos was going to cast catapult on Jim to launch him further and like faster and harder, or whether Nuff was going to cast invisibility on Jim. And I believe ended up letting Jim be invisible. Yeah.
Yep.
But he was an invisible flying Minotaur being launched straight into a dragon.
And as we all know, if your target cannot see you when you're attacking them, you have advantage.
Yep. Did he crit on the first attack?
Yes. He hit, he crit, he smite. He took a solid chunk out of Frostbane. It was ridiculous, the amount of damage that he did.
And the most epic part about it, I think, was that he actually rolled twice and it was 2 natural 20s. So like no matter what, he was getting that crit.
Yeah. It was just ridiculous. One of the it will go down forever in our history of D&D games.
It's true.
And then I think he ended up, I rolled like 3d6 bludgeoning damage for him, and it ended up being like 1, 2, 3. So he took a total of like maybe 6,
right.
Which was crazy.
We were like level 5 or 7, so that's nothing.
Yeah. I remember it was to the point where you guys had extra attack.
I remember Gregory had this really awful plan that he wanted to try. It was mostly that I just wanted to do something ridiculous and funny because I knew this was going to be the final battle. And so me and I can't remember in which combat it was. I think it was in Axholm when we were fighting like a troll or something that was working with the ghouls or whatever, like an undead troll. Gregory had used enlarge reduce on himself to enlarge himself, and then also had someone else cast enlarge reduce, and I don't think we had read the ruling right on it. So basically we just thought that we could keep stacking it on top of each other. So I was just like, I just need all the casters to cast enlarge on me till I'm like the same size of the dragon, and then I can just grapple it and you guys can fight it. So I kept trying to get people to do that, and I think I made it all the way up to a large creature, and I got knocked down and had to do death saves most of the rest of the fight. Though I did get a few good hits in on the dragon. That's what I spent a
At
lot
that
of
point,
it.
you have to remember you're also making yourself the largest target on the
It is
battlefield because he
true.
was still flying at Phandalin, and he's like, "Oh, there's that giant guy.
There's
I
that
guess I should go
giant
kill
dude.
that."
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure, a full dragon's breath when the rest of the party was spread out, and that's just what took down my squishy wizard.
But, well, that's the thing is, you guys had a skirmish with him earlier, and he mostly almost killed one of the townspeople, but you guys managed to ward him off. But you guys had seen his breath attack, so in game you knew, okay, we need to spread out, and you guys had done that because some of you were over on the ballista. Jim was, of course, way over at him in the air, and then you and Morthos were off to the side but split apart.
Yeah, and Jafar, yeah.
And Jafar, yeah.
And he actually, pretty much besides me, only me getting like downed because I was trying that silly, absurd plan when I could have stayed. If I had been trying to make rational decisions, could have stayed way far out of the range of his breath attack. We all pretty much like defeated the dragon without almost taking any damage. So you actually afterwards, like, we finished it out and like it was canon for our game that we defeated the dragon. We tried a like alternate universe ending where it was like an adult or ancient dragon. I can't remember which it was.
I threw just a regular adult white dragon.
Yeah, and we also defeated that one, but I believe it was Nuff and Far that were the only ones left standing in that fight.
That was really fun.
I mean, for like a level 7 party, it's not bad. I mean, yeah, it's pretty much a TPK, but it's not the worst way to go out.
No. So yeah, that was Icespire. That was great.
And then the party kind of in a end credit scene, like, see them journey to the dragon's lair to save the last few villagers that had been put in that keep, and were able to have them de-thawed and revivified to go back to Phandalin as heroes.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of my favorite games, just because it had like a distinct ending to it.
And I
there's a lot of campaigns you play that you never end up finishing.
Yeah. And I like short runs, and I like running like just a full module of like 1 to 5 or 5 to 7. Just here's the story arc, here's where we're going, and this is the end goal. And everyone knows that this is going to end when we kill the dragon, or this is going to end when we kill X, or complete X, save X. Like, that was...
Get ring to Mordor, that kind of thing.
That was one of the fun things about like running one shots that I really like, or things that turn into a couple sessions. Like when our friend was running his campaign, he's like, do you want to take a turn DMing something? I mean, I know you could probably do stuff, and I need a break. I'm busy this week, but if you want to run something, or heck, if I'm free, I'll just run a character. Our friend ended up being a player in the one shot that I made, and you guys ended up fighting the Fragon, as you dubbed it, the frog dragon of the swamp. And that was fun, because I gave him a degen effect for all of you melee people to be dissuaded from coming in close. And I also gave him an insanely long jump distance, because he was a giant frog with dragon scales, basically. Which was pretty funny, because I'm like, oh, I'll put him far off, and no one's going to get to him from this far. Oh, right, they have a fighter who's got archery, and he's going to, of course, poke at that. I'm like, oh, well, he's got cover. Oh, yeah, that's right. He took the feat that ignores anything but full cover. Oh, yeah. And so he ended up doing, like, a lot of the damage to the Fragon just by picking him off from really far.
He had just taken sharpshooter too, so there was like lots of baby Fragon that you had hopping around, and he was pretty much just sharpshooting all of them, and they all had such low AC that he was just utterly destroying every single one.
Yeah, and that was with taking the neg 5 to hit. and that plus 10 damage, it was just one shot guaranteed if he hit, because they had like 14 HP.
Yep. It was just too good.
It was.
We'll have to do more of these tales by the campfire. Well, thank you for joining me again, Darcy Driver.
Yeah, it's been fun, Sandy. Until next time.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Please, if you liked the video, leave a like, write us a comment about what you want us to do next, and share it with a friend.